Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Move Crush Count. I'm your host, Scott Joseph. Move Crush Count is proudly sponsored by J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your competition so you don't have to outspend them. Do me a favor, visit jnlmarketing.com today so you can see how their innovative approach is going to help you move the crowd, crush the competition, and count the money. Today, we are thrilled to have with us a very special guest, Matthew Davis. He's an attorney. He's an entrepreneur. And this is the part I love the most. He's the author of the book, The Art of Preventing Stupid. Matthew's firm, Davis Business Law, has grown over 1,000%. That's 1,000% in the last 6 years. He's made the Inc. 500 list, 5,000 list. In this episode, he's going to share with us, and we're going to explore his expertise on how to proactively protect your business from stupid mistakes and safeguard against potential threats. He's also going to expand on how he teaches business owners and entrepreneurs how to capitalize on their opportunities by dealing with their vulnerabilities. So let's get started. We're going to learn from the best. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Hey, man, thanks. I am thrilled to be here, and I love your subject matter. I mean, it's what we teach, and people are like, hey, what? You're a law firm, don't you deal with problems? And yeah, we do, but we love to help people get ahead of their problems, because guess what? Those are actually the fun clients to work with. And it's part of the secret sauce around here is let's find these great ambitious entrepreneurs that we can go put our skills to work for and help them. One of our taglines is deal with your vulnerabilities so you can capitalize on your opportunities. Sounds kind of like yours.
Let's dive right in.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What got you interested in entrepreneurship and law? And then the real question here is, how did you merge the two?
Well, I've always, I sort of wandered into law mainly just because I didn't know what the hell else to do. I had a history and political science major, and I was a 21-year-old college kid. I'd done pretty well in college, and my dad made me an offer that was, even at 20, I was smart enough to take. I guess I was 21. He said, listen, he's kind of blunt about things, and he said, I'll pay for your tuition at OU Law School, or you're off the family tip. And I'm like, okay, I think I'll go to law school, Dad. And it was just kind of raw like that. But I eventually wandered back to our hometown, just small city, and I got busy. And one of the best things that ever happened to me is the law firm I was thought I had a job with. By the time I got back here, I'd gone to Washington, D.C. for a little while. By the time I got back, they'd already hired somebody for the position I thought I had. And so they hired me on an eat what you kill basis. And everybody was like, well, what's Davis going to do? And I got real hungry and I got real busy, and I figured out how to get to work, which I always had that in me. I've always suffered a little ambition. And I just started taking anything that walked through the door and learned the trade. And, I like to tell the story. The second case I ever took was an adoption. A stepdad wanted to adopt his stepdaughter. Okay. I took that, figured it out along the way. And, this morning I was just dealing with a $500,000 case. That is a direct descendant of that case 27 years later.
Oh, wow.
So, point is, you get out there, you get busy, you just start making yourself indispensable to your clients or your customers, and then you stay busy. So I guess that's a long answer to your question, but that's how I approach things.
So I've got to ask, so I love the title. Tell us more about the book, The Art of Preventing Stupid. And the first thing I want you to tell me is why you came up with that title. I love the title, but why'd you write it?
Okay. You're a lawyer, you're sitting here, your client comes in, and, they tell you the story of what happened. Oh, I got into business with this moron that I knew from church, or this moron that, we used to ride motorbikes together or whatever. Okay, there's one example. And, as the attorney, you're just sitting there going, well, that was stupid. Why did you do that? And um, so, the title's a little provocative, and it's meant to be provocative because
Yeah.
As well as I do, that entrepreneurs have this swagger. They have this, I'm 13 foot tall and bulletproof. And, it takes that to, to go build a business. It takes that focus and that bravado. And at the same time, as their attorney, I'm sitting here going, hey, buddy, let's take a step back. Let's deal with your vulnerabilities a little bit, which doesn't have to be that, it can't consume your business. You have to deal, let's deal with the vulnerabilities. Then you can deal with your opportunities. You're going to capitalize on it, frankly, because then you're not dealing with your problems. So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to slap entrepreneurs upside the head and go, hey, dummy, let's slow down a second. Let's dig in and let's look at where your threats are. Let's look at where your weaknesses are and let's shore them up. Okay.
It's so funny because you're 100% right. I think the most successful entrepreneurs or business leaders, owners, they're willing to take chances or they wouldn't be in the position they're in.
Yeah.
And you mentioned bulletproof. They definitely feel like I would say they're optimist. And when you're an optimistic person, you tend to not pay attention to the potential risk as much as you would if you're a pessimist, right?
Yeah. And they need to, Jim Collins talks about this, good to great, great by choice. He talks about it in Great by Choice. And he talks about, he's got 4 characteristics of, I think he calls them 10X or 5X business leaders. Anyway, great business leaders. And, one of them is they are, the term he uses is productively paranoid. Okay. And it's like they are constantly going, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? Because then they don't suffer from the sucker punches. Now they're going to get some, okay? Everybody in business, again, Collins talks about everybody gets bad luck. That happens. But it's the people that are prepared to deal with it and the people that minimize it are the ones that really tend to be successful. They're not making as many unforced errors.
What do you think are I mean, been in business for how long again? 20 some odd years, almost 30 years, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So what would you say are the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs, business owners are making out there? And how can they avoid them? That's probably the more important question.
Oh, wow. One thing, I talked about this earlier this week with somebody. Um, I have always called it the word problem. Okay. Figure out your word problem. Okay. I went to school. I hated word problems. I think everybody can raise their hand, right? But at the end of the day, most of your life is a series of word problems. Okay. Um, you know, there's some truth to that. What I'm saying is like, okay, if I want to lose weight, here's how many calories my body burns a day, and this is what I have to do, and then we'll see, what weight loss that comes to. What I'm getting to with business is a lot of business owners fail to really sit down and figure out what their word problem is. And some of it's going to be qualitative and some of it's going to be quantitative. I've got ours written at the top of my whiteboard and it says hire A players. Okay, little qualitative nature to that. But that also means people who will meet the KPIs that we give them.
Right.
Then we've got the marketing number, which is X number of leads in established market, X number of leads in a new market. Close rates, utilization rates, which means making sure that they're putting in good time because we're an hourly bill firm. Okay, I could go on through it. There's a couple more numbers. But the point is, you have to figure out what your word problem is to what your success is. And there's a lot of business owners that really fail to do that. Again, going back to Jim Collins, he talks about it. Again, I found this out after I'd been talking about my idea for years, right? I was reading one of his books, and he talks about it being your SMAC recipe, which is your specific, methodical, and consistent pattern of what you do. It's the discipline of what makes your business work. I also talk about it from a standpoint of music, because I'm a musician. Um, in the art of preventing stupid, I call it your rhythm and bass. Let's put down, here's your rhythm, here's your bass, and that's what makes a great rock and roll band. And I think entrepreneurs, they have this habit of chasing shiny objects or chasing new deals.
Yep.
Yeah, and the great businesses are just, let's figure out what we do and let's do it over and over and over again. We turn down
What?
opportunities all the time.
Yeah.
It's not what we do.
What are we great at, and then stay focused and stay disciplined on it. Doesn't mean you don't innovate. It doesn't mean you're not constantly improving, looking for the next breakthrough. But to your point, you're not just, your head doesn't turn to every shiny thing saying, let's do this. We could make money here. We can make money there. You end up making money nowhere when you do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great line I heard the other day. You chase two rabbits, you catch none.
Yeah, it's a great way to say it. I got a comment here. All right. So, Mia Walker's got a question for you. Could you please explain more about the word problem and how do you figure it out? And before you answer that, for those listening, we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And so some of the social networks, when you post a question or comment, will come through on StreamYard here. Some do not. So obviously we're getting them from LinkedIn. So if you've got questions for Matthew or myself, please put them in here. We'll try and get to them. If we don't, it's just because we didn't see them. They didn't come through StreamYard, and we'll have to go back on the network and answer them with text and reply to your comments. So if you could answer Mia's question there. It's a good question.
Yeah, Mia, thanks for the question. I love your shirt too. Here's the kicker. It's not that hard. And I talk about this in the art of preventing stupid, how every business is made up, everyone, okay, right? From back to the Sumerians, 2,500 years before Christ to now. You got 7 systems, and you got to figure out what works for you in that system. And the first one is going to be, your management. What do you need to do? Particularly if you're small, it's just going to be you. Okay. And then the second thing you need to look at is look at what you need out of your employees, because those are the people that do your production. Again, if it's small and it's just you, it's you. So, back when I was just officing out of my house 8 years ago, I had a great life, had 5 kids. We just hung out and I practiced law, but they didn't bother me much because I was billing 8 hours a day. Okay. I knew I had to do that to pay our bills and to fund our retirement. So I knew that. And then you got to know what your marketing looks like. And, I am really hardcore all the time, just smacking people going, marketing is different than sales. Do not even put an and between them. Marketing, period. Yep. Sales. Okay. Marketing is how you get your leads. And so you have to go, okay, how many leads do I need to, and then you got to look at that in relation to sales based on your close rates and, basically what you're closing. But and part of that too is considering what your average sale value is. Okay. So, we know that our average case value is about $8,000. Okay. We know that based on experience. And again, it takes a while to figure some of this out. So again, we're going to talk, let's figure out what production we need to do, and who we need on the team and what their KPIs should be, meaning what sort of productivity you need out of them. Let's figure out, I'm looking at my whiteboard, by the way. Let's figure out what leads we need. Let's figure out the close, and then let's figure out, how we're going to get paid and how we price it. And, in our business, we have utilization of attorneys, we have realization on bills, we have collection rates. But, you have to go through these systems and figure out how they work for you. Let me run through them real quick because I'm getting lost in the weeds a little bit. You got to figure out what your production looks like. You need to figure out what your plant works like and how much that's going to cost you. Figure out what your metrics need to be, and then marketing and sales. That's how you do it. If you can deconstruct those, you can make sense out of it.
So when I hear word problem, I think of because I listen to it, right? And I think of goals,
Yeah,
objectives,
yeah,
right? And so you're saying it in a different way. You're just making sure but you've identified that, listen, if you're going to set these goals, objectives, or this word problem, it needs to be in these specific areas,
yeah.
in
Well,
in this focus.
maybe I'm saying let's take the goal, let's say where I need to be, and let's reverse engineer it. Okay,
Right.
so every year we factor in 30% growth for the firm,
Yep.
and then we look and we go, okay, how many attorneys is it going to take to hit that goal? And so this year I think we've got 6 hires scheduled. And next year we're going to grow by 30% again. So next year we're going to schedule 8 or 10 or whatever. So
Right.
yeah, look where you want to be and then figure out what it takes to get there.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So basically, here's the goal. Now, what's the word problem? How do I lay this out to accomplish that? Correct?
Yeah. And people, by the way, too, people look at budgets wrong a lot. We look at our budget like our goal. We, every December we do the budget for the next year, and we dial it in usually within 1 or 2% every year. And so here's where we want to be, and then we figure out what it takes. And right now we're looking at May. We've got a hire scheduled. We're trying to decide where to do it, whether we want to do it in Wichita or Springfield or Kansas City. But we're going to do it. And we were going, well, are we going to put it off? We just said, no, we're going to do it. Let's go do it. And that's how you do it.
What do you think some of the biggest legal challenges are that entrepreneurs and business owners face? And then how do they overcome those?
Well, I alluded to one of them earlier, and it's that they get into business with other people.
Mm.
And we hate that. I hate that. I hate it from my own experience. I used to be a partner in a law firm, and law firms are run horribly. They tend to be run like a fraternity house, which, just think about Animal House and go from there. But, you know, this here's the thing. Business is a series of mastering skill sets. Okay. And I talk about this in Art of Preventing Stupid is just, you have to be comfortable with your own ignorance, and you have to be comfortable going, I've got to learn that. I've got to go learn that. And, when you see something you don't know, I'm getting to the point. When you see something you don't know, you got to go just be ready to grasp it. And we have a term around here called 800ing it. Okay. I decided I wanted to go to a good graduate school. So I realized I was horrible at English. So I went out and I figured out how to ace the GRE to get into a good graduate school, graduate record exam. I perfect scored the stinking English section. I made an 800 on it, not because I know English, but because I mastered the skill set of how to pass the test. And this determination is so important of going, I'm going to understand what I need to know. I'm going to understand, I'm going to accept my own ignorance, and I'm going to take the responsibility of going and educating myself beyond that to a point of mastery. And okay, this is a legal problem, okay? Because what happens is people they will suffer this fear of going, I need a partner to offset that. No, you don't. You need the determination to go learn it. And if you don't have that, and if you fall in the trap of going, I need this dumb partner, you know, 99% of the time, it ends up being a horrible deal. You
Yeah.
know,
So we've got another question from Mia, which is going, it's difficult for a startup to figure out what it takes to accomplish a goal due to a lack of experience and or a lack of data, right? To tell us what I run our business on data, right? So if you don't have any data, you've got to make assumptions and do a little research. So should she rely on other companies' experience or maybe even uh track records and data? I think that's another good question. And by the way, Mia represents a decent percentage of our audience, which is people who are looking to either start their own business, become entrepreneurs. We've got a lot of business leaders who are, should I continue working here or should I start my own thing? So I think this is a really good question. And then after you answer this, I want to come back because I think you touched on something with working with others there. And I want to make some comments to that if that's okay.
yeah, well, it's your show, man. Okay. And
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yes. Should I rely on other people's experience? I want to throw out two resources for you. Um, when you're just starting out, what you're doing is you're testing your model. You're seeing if you can do it. There's a fantastic essay written by a guy named Daniel Marcos. I read it at least once a quarter, and it's called Evolve Yourself to Scale Your Business. Because business, by the way, is always a series of personal growth. It's just constant. You're constantly learning. If you're not, you're just standing still. Marcos's essay walks through 4 different stages of business growth. And every time you jump up, you read it and you go, oh, yeah, that's exactly what just happened. It's a brilliant essay. And he talks about what you need to focus on when you're just starting up. And the other resource I would toss out to you, and this was really instrumental in my life, is Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. Um, Fantastic book because it talks about this notion that most businesses aren't started by entrepreneurs. They're started by people working in another company who have, I think he calls it an entrepreneurial spasm. And he goes, they go to themselves, hey, I can do this better. Why am I working for the man?
Right.
And they go out and they start their own business. Now the issue is at that point, they then have to fulfill the 3 roles of the company. And every company has a role of a finder, that's the person that finds the work, a minder, and a grinder. He calls them entrepreneurs, managers, and technicians. But so, yes, to answer your question, it is hard to figure out your goals. It's a process of figuring it out. And that's what your startup period is for. So pay attention to it in the startup. Validate your business model.
And Mia, the other thing that you can do is, I run leadership groups, right? So, and mastermind break, we have tons of mastermind breakout sessions. And I think it's important to grow your network and grow relationships and surround yourself with uh, successful people who have accomplished a lot of things. And a lot of times, regardless of the industry you're in, you can be a disruptor from learning business practices and processes and find ways to integrate it into your own. Sometimes the biggest disruption comes from outside the industry that we're in. What can be very common in some industries can be very new in others and be just as successful, if not more so. So surround yourself, who you associate with and who you surround yourself with is important. And that kind of leads going back to what I wanted to comment on your prior comment, which was, getting into business with others is tough. And gosh, that brings up so many things because, it's not too far different from being married, right? I mean, uh, once you're married, if you get a business partner, you're basically married in your professional life. It's not personal, and so there's a lot of complications How do you distribute out funds and money, and who's worth what, and who's contributing this? And all of a sudden you've got a partner who wants to do this idea, but you want to go in a different direction. There's all kinds of problems that can come. I think, I am big on collaboration. I am big on um, working with others. I've got businesses where the J&L was actually the only business I had where it was all me.
Mhm.
It started off with a partner. He left after a few months. So really the whole thing was me. Now I've brought a partner in, but that's because he manages the day-to-day and is responsible for everything. He's the managing partner, um, which frees my time up to do other things. So we don't have those complications, his vision, and we have same page meetings and such. But my other businesses, I have partners in. And I can tell you how we've made them work, but then I'm curious as to how you would explain or advise someone from a legal standpoint on what they should do in advance. I always prepare any business that I'm going into with a partner. I basically have a prenup. All right. So in other words, here's what's going to happen in all these situations. You rarely can think of everything, but here's some situations. But we have very specific roles. Like I don't get into partnership agreements where I'm going to be active and someone else is going to be very active in the business. To me, that is just a recipe for disaster, at least for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I am, if I'm in partner with someone else, it's because I'm a silent investor. I'm an advisor. I've got someone else running that show, and or I'm running it and they're the advisor or silent influencer. Um, but I'm curious to hear your opinion on how you would prevent complications, because there's a lot of people that go in business with others.
Yeah. And it's funny you use the marriage metaphor. We use that. And, I maybe got a little bit of my dad's indelicacy because I generally tell people, look, you want to get into partnership with somebody, that's like marriage without sex. You signing up for that? And, they generally go, well,
Some do. Some
some
have. I
do.
shouldn't say they didn't sign up for it, but that's what they got.
Yeah. And, but they don't want to do that. And I have my default position is stay out of business with other people. Um, and and here's why. Let's clarify this because there's exceptions to the rule, but again, the deal is I think a lot of people will get other people in business with them because they think they need them to learn the skill sets or to bring that skill set
Great
to the
point.
table. And so the point I make is really if you're going to go into business, you have to go into it with the determination that you're going to go figure out what you have to master, what you have to become best in the world at to be in your business. Now, exceptions to the rule are what you were noting. If you're a seasoned investor and you're providing financing, and or if you let's say your business is a mature business, and you're like, okay, I want to focus on more of the entrepreneurship, but I, I want to bring somebody in on the managing basis, and we're going to get to the caveats about that too. Now first of all, we always make them buy in. Okay, partners are somebody that brings money to the table. And by the way, we were just debriefing this for the last two of my EO forum meetings, and we had some pretty bare knuckle fights about that in the among the seven of us. That's entrepreneurs organization. If you should be ought to be familiar, or I expect you're familiar with that. And we but the other thing you were talking about is, yeah, have very clear roles defined. We use role clarities instead of job descriptions, pretty similar, except that we've attached KPIs to the jobs. We think that's more effective. And now let's go legally too. Okay. Um, if you're going to do that, you call it a prenup. Some people would call it a buy sell agreement, or if you're
Well,
doing a new what?
yeah, I only use the word prenup only. That's not what I use that because of the analogy I gave. But yeah, I get you.
It's the same idea. I mean, it is
That's right.
it's a it's a pre-wedding agreement. It
Right.
is okay. It's true. And when you do, when let's presume that we're doing LLCs instead of corporations. I don't want to get off in that weeds. And if you're going to do that, yeah, your operating agreement, which is the same thing as your bylaws, if it was a corporation, you need to have ways to separate. How are we going to split sheets amicably? And it can be a cutthroat agreement, which is I'll offer to buy you out, or you can take me. I've got 6 or 8 different versions stored in my computer of how you can do that. But if you are going into business with somebody else, that is the fundamental thing that you have to do. And otherwise, I mean, we're breaking up a brewery up in Kansas City right now, and um, I haven't even seen the operating agreement. Robert's doing it, but I hope it's in there. Otherwise, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I've got a partnership agreement I'm working on right now and reviewing and going that's exactly the step I'm in right now, is going through this operating agreement and make sure that just we're clear about certain things and things such as that. Great partner. I don't have issues there. I just want I everyone's a great partner until they're not.
It's kind of like how people go broke. They go broke uh, gradually, then suddenly, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And so, a good operating agreement prevents it prevents personal and complications. You can just go by the agreement that we've all agreed to, and we move on, and you're just trying to take out a lot of gray area as much as possible, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs and business owners who are just starting off? This could help me as well. And she's got another question that I'm going to put up towards the end. Um, when they're trying to establish their brand. So earlier you brought up marketing a little bit. So obviously that entails branding and stuff. So what advice would you give those guys?
Mm. Well, we think a lot about brand. And to me, brand has a lot to do with culture.
Yep.
And culture has a lot to do with authenticity. I mean, these are kind of buzzwords, right? I mean, um, and I mean, just be who you are and take care of people. Okay, now this seems kind of stupid, okay, but we are really intense advocates of culture here. Most law firms will go around and they just hire attorneys with a bar card and a pulse and say, go sit in that office and do work. And again, it takes a while to develop some of these things, but our first core value is believe and protect their dreams. And now that's a core value that goes internally and externally, because if when I'm looking at somebody, the first thing a recruit, the first thing I'm thinking is, can I, well, protect their dreams for their life, and can I make their life better? Okay, I'm getting to brand because this all goes to brand. And if and by the way, I also ask, are they somebody that wants to protect our clients' dreams? We interviewed an attorney in Houston. We interviewed like 4 or 5 attorneys in Houston. We walked away from them all because I'm like, they do not fit our culture. They do not fit our brand. And, we're big enough that we can afford to do that. We just didn't even enter the market. We went to Austin instead, sort of by accident, because we found somebody that fit
Yep.
our culture. But, um, when you're establishing brand, these people are representatives of you. But I guess, I'm a casual person. I mean, I work in an industry that can be very formal, can be very structured. And, our brand just basically makes fun of other law firms. Most law firm ads are, recruiting ads are like, would you like to work for a prestigious law firm and wear a gray suit and be a douchebag to the rest of humanity? Right. And, mine literally says, we don't, we want to, if you want to come learn how to help people have a good work-life balance, and if you're not an Eeyore, give me a call. It's longer than that. But ma'am, culture, and hey, here's a book. This this book is so good. It's well, look how good it is. Look at all my notes.
I love
Iron
that. Yeah.
Gratitude by Mark Murphy. Fantastic about figuring out who you are and taking your gifts to the marketplace, and then putting your passion to work on how to help people and be a servant to them. So that's a long answer, but man, it's
Well,
important.
I love when you talk about being authentic, being you, um, speaking your truth. I think I always talk about, and some people misunderstand this. You can't create a culture. You can't manufacture a culture. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is this: you can, as long as it's authentic to who you are and what your business is truly about, right? That creates that culture. But to sit there and say, this is who we really are as a person, but I want this type of culture, that doesn't, you can't manufacture something that's not true, that's not real. And and so you can put all the ping pong tables up, the pool tables and all the other stuff, but if that's not who you are at the core, in most core values, I think you brought up, it's both. You have one that you brought up that was both internal and external. To me, those are the best ones. You shouldn't even have one that's one way. um, I can tell you our core values are innovation. That means we have to be innovative with our own internal process, everything that we do internally, just as much as we have to be innovative for our clients externally. We're passionate. We have to be passionate about helping and growing the careers of our internal people. All right, making their work and their work experience is
Yeah.
great. We have to be passionate about that. We have to be passionate about producing results for clients. Delivering results goes both internal and external. Honesty and integrity, a winning attitude. All those things are both internal and external. And I think great core values, they're not necessarily things that can be taught. They're really virtues. Um,
Well,
you know,
the thing is, you're exactly right. And I heard somebody use the term, you discover them. And
yes,
it's a process of digging down and going, who we are, what makes, and it starts at the top, right? And then you're who we are, what makes us different than other people, what are the passions that we can bring to the market that are going to differentiate us from everybody else, and make us a better mousetrap than everybody else. And then your job as the leader of the company is to protect that culture, you
that's
know,
right.
like all hell. And
That's right.
make sure that we will hire and fire based on people that just don't get our culture. Every now and again we make a mistake, or every now and again somebody goes off the rail. But we're not going to put up with somebody who's stuck up and who's snotty and who doesn't have the heart and the passion to go out and say, okay, here's an entrepreneur. I mean, let's go help them. I mean, John, we were just on our morning huddle, and John got on and he's talking about some like, what's that little Japanese ice cream, mochi or mochi? I don't know. All I know is I find them in my daughter's bed, because she's a mess. They're those little balls, and he's like,
Yeah,
"Oh
I
yeah,
know. It's
I think we're going to get to work with this company," right? That's what he said. And I'm going, yeah, that's it. That's it. We are going to get to work with them. We're going to get them to go help build their dreams. And, when we have people on our team like that, which we have, that's our team, man, talk about brand, because You think our clients feel that? Yeah. Now, do we execute perfectly all the time? No. But do we bust tail to do it? I mean, yeah. I mean, we use NPS scores, net promoter scores, and and when we get a negative net promoter score on an invoice, I'm like, bang, let's call them, let's figure out what's going on.
I love when I asked you about branding, uh, your first instinct, and I even tried to point you in that direction of marketing, right? Because I think that's where most people think marketing, branding, and vice. But your first thing was, listen, your brand starts with your culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? It starts with the people, because you can have all the greatest marketing in the world, but if you've got a toxic culture and you've got bad attitudes and what I call cancers in your organization, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. It doesn't matter how good your sales is. It doesn't matter how good your product is. It's not going to be sustainable. It's your culture and the leadership that creates that. I think is priority number one. So I love where you went with that.
Well, and let me interject just because I love this example. In Hiring for Attitude, Murphy talks about Southwest Airlines, right? Okay.
Yeah.
How do you
Yep.
argue with their success?
Yep.
And they did a recruiting deal. Don't know if this story's true. It's in the book where they have all these pilots show up, and the recruiter stands up and he holds up a pair of brown, and all the pilots are in suits, right? They're at an interview. There's 100 of them in the room or something. Or the recruiter holds up a pair of brown shorts, khaki shorts. Says, "How many of you all would want to rather be wearing these?" Stand up. 50 of them stand up. Okay, you all go over there. Everybody else leave the room. You're done.
Oh, wow.
And the point is, Southwest has always had a culture of fun. We're going to be relaxed. We're going to get
Yep.
stuff done, right? We're not going to be fooling around it, but we're going to make the experience fun for everybody. And that was Herb Kelleher. I mean, he was this goofy Texas lawyer that took over the company, and he set the tone. And by the way, it made it a lot more fun for everybody to work there and so on. So,
You know, bringing up Southwest, there was another story from a recruiting thing that I heard with them that goes along the same lines. So they, for their flight attendants, they had everybody come into a room, and they would have them go up and speak in front of the room.
mhm.
And of course, everyone participating, trying to land these jobs, assumed that how they presented themselves, how they articulated themselves up on stage when they were speaking, played a big role in the hiring process. The people doing the hiring, the HR people or managers, I don't know how it works with Southwest, none of them were paying any attention to who was speaking. What they wanted to do is pay attention to the audience and see who they were competing against, who was willing to pay attention to other people and care enough to listen for others,
Yeah,
rather than they didn't care what somebody was saying on stage. They wanted to see the reaction and the behaviors of the people in the audience. Were they people? Did they truly have a sincere interest in others? And that's what they were paying attention to.
that's pretty cool. I love
Yeah,
stuff like that. And
I do too.
you get that team together. You get that team. We talk. One of my friends always tells me, "Davis, you're very tribal," and I'm like, "Yeah." We build a tribe and we work together, and incidentally have a lot of Native Americans on the team, which is kind of funny once you think about it.
So we've got another guest, and a frequent commenter on the show, Michael Porro, great business leader. He's actually here in Louisville, Kentucky. He's got when he's talking about hiring people, he brings up an acronym that he uses, BDC. He never hires anybody with BDC. Nobody. So when he's asking questions, if he's hear answers that either blame, defend, or complain, he rules them out. He doesn't want people that blame, defend, or complain about the prior boss, job, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, one thing we always teach everybody. Are you familiar with the story Message to Garcia?
I'm not. Educate me.
Fantastic essay too. And it used to be required reading for every Marine grunt. There was a Marine Commandant reading list, and they took it off here in the last couple of years, but it's about a 1,000 word essay. And the story of this, and my kids have suffered through this. So once I get to it, I mean, my kids are just like, carry the message to Garcia, Dad, and I'll go, right? And but the story is, so President McKinley was, 1899 or whatever, and the Spanish American War was going on, and there was a rebel general in Cuba named Garcia, and the president needed to get a message to Garcia. And they go, who do we get it to? And they go, give it to Roland because he'll get it there. He's not going to come up with a bunch of dumbass excuses of, oh, I can't do it. Oh, it's going to be hard or whatever. And, he's not going to go, oh, I got to get to Cuba. Well, I'll take the train to Savannah, but, oh, there's no boats. I think I'll just go get drunk. Right. He's going to go figure out, he's going to go, then he's going to go to Augusta and figure out how to find a boat there. And it's those people that you want that know how to get stuff done, that don't BDC, right? They don't accept any excuses. They look at a task and they figure it out. And, everybody around here knows if I look at them and I'm like, carry the message to Garcia, they're just like, he's got me. He's got my kids. They're just like, Dad, oh, okay. But, that's life lesson. And by the way, those people that do that, they always have a job.
That's right. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, check that out. You will love it. And
I will.
I mean, it's in all of our intake materials. And we got a guy over in Tulsa reading it right now.
That's great. I will look that in. I will look that into that. How can you help business leaders, entrepreneurs, explain what you mean and how they can capitalize on their opportunities by dealing with their vulnerabilities?
Okay. You've heard of SWOT analysis. Let's look at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I've been in, I don't know, 50, 100 strategic planning sessions with companies where they go, okay, let's draw the cross. Let's sit down and let's talk about what our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats are. I think, just like you do, business leaders tend to be optimists. They are much better as a whole at looking at what our strengths and our opportunities are.
Yep.
Much less effective at going, what are our weaknesses and our threats? Okay, I'm starting with that presumption. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. So what we do, that's a brainstorming exercise, right? What we teach people how to do, and the start of this is in the art of preventing stupid, excuse me. We break it down. We break down your threats by 3 sources of your threats. And, and then we also, I mentioned that systems, list of systems. So 3 sources of your threats, and then let's look at the 7 systems of your business. So this is one of the 2 tools we use. The other one's similar. It's more objective, looking at like market and government and so on. There's some overlap. But let's talk about the business immune system. So if you want to deal with your vulnerabilities, let's look at the sources. One is, I call catastrophes in the book. You can pick a different word. You can call it bad luck. You can call it sucker punches. You can call it disasters. Okay, they're gonna happen. And but let's brainstorm around what they can look like to the company, and let's look at how they can hit any of the 7 systems. And the way you deal with those is you prepare for them or you prevent them. Some of them you can prepare, And some of them you can prevent, some of them you just have to prepare for, right? You know,
Right.
Kelly asked me the other day, she goes, what's going to happen when one of the attorneys, one of the attorneys leaves, takes a job with a different firm? I'm like, well, it's going to happen. That's bad luck for us. And I said, I've got a system here. I'm ready to prepare for it. Of course, I refined it going through it. And, it was not fun, but took up the better part of my February working through that. Okay. But, I had thought through it. I brainstormed. I said, okay, it's going to come. When the sucker punch hits, and the attorney was sort of stunned. I mean, I think he was like, "You're not mad?" I said, "It's going to happen. I got a big job here. I got 25 plus families. I got to keep food on their table. I'm not going to let you bother me." So,
Yep.
okay, that's catastrophes, right? Number one, prepare or prevent. I talked about the second one earlier. It's your ignorance. Okay, be serious about what you need to know and where you can improve. And business owners, there's a saying, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
But it's hard. So I'm not telling you that it's easy, but the people that are successful do the hard things. Can I get an amen? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, every time you're butting up against the wall and you're going, what do I need to know? What do I need to know? I need to learn this skill set. I was I was doing this system, this exercise, this brainstorming exercise with some clients of mine, and they were just, you know, it's an oil field service company. Oil field was hot. They were just struggling, and they were working 80 plus hours a week. And I finally looked at them and I said, "You guys suck at recruiting."
I listen. I think, especially in the last few years, recruiting, hiring, I think it's been a challenge. I always tell people, I always get a big kick, and I think there are people that are better than others at it. There are people that are better interviewers at in discovering who has good potential, but I don't care how good you are. Everyone makes hiring mistakes.
Yeah. Well, they weren't even like getting the leads. They weren't even getting
Uh,
the prospective people. I'm like,
so
you
they
guys
weren't
suck.
coming up to the plate. Yeah, they weren't
And
making that
but
enough.
that was what that was. Is that was identifying their ignorance, because we
Yeah.
sat, we looked at the threats, and they go, "You're right, we suck." And
We ha-
which they
we
had to
have a
go.
ver- Go
Well,
ahead. Go ahead.
well, they had to go figure out how to recruit, and they did. And we came back the next quarter and we're doing the same exercise. And they go, "Well, we found a company up in Michigan that sent us all these, and we're flush now." I said, "Well, great now. Okay, do you know how to train them?" And they go, "Shut up, Davis." And, but okay, the point is ignorance, and you then have to learn. You know, the solution to ignorance. We're talking about how to prevent stupid. Ultimately, is
Right.
you go, okay, I'm going to go educate myself. I'm going to go learn. I'm going to go grow. Now we're cutting time. The third one is ineptitude. Ineptitude is simply the lack of discipline. It's poor execution. Okay, you're going to see this more in established companies that aren't executing well. And in a nutshell, that's how you brainstorm. Then you prioritize, and then you plan. And
Yeah.
we've got great tools up on our website in our resource tab at davisbusinesslaw.com that can help people do that.
And I've got that everything spelled down there. It's got scrolling at the bottom, everyone. So that's davisbusinesslaw.com. So you can go grab some of those tools. We appreciate that, Matthew. You brought up some of the hiring. We have in recruiting, we have a frequent, well, he helps moderate, and he's a big participant and member of our leadership group, David Spizak, with Business Bourbon and Cigars. And he has a theory that basically he says you should be recruiting
Mm-hmm.
every day, all day. It's not about recruiting when you need it, because the best person that you could have hired may have just taken a job a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and you would have never gotten that opportunity that could have vaulted your business up to a whole new level because you didn't need to hire someone at that point. So he believes in 100% always recruiting, building a bench,
Mhm.
because
And
if you're not recruiting when that one person that is the key to your future is available or looking or more likely or has the highest propensity to be interested, we'll say, you miss that opportunity.
yeah, and you just never know when they're going to come up. I get it. We don't take it every day, but we've got a hire scheduled in May, and I'm probably going to advertise in 2 or 3 markets, and then we're going to go
Where it's
wherever we
yeah,
find the best person.
yeah. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. That's a wrap for today's episode of Move Crush Count. This is where we explored the power of overcoming business vulnerabilities, seizing opportunities with our special guest, Matthew Davis. If you want to learn more about Matthew and his strong, protected business system, I want you to visit davisbusinesslaw.com. It's scrolling at the bottom of the screen there. If you are going to be getting this through audio version only when we drop it as a podcast, we'll also have it in the show notes and have it linked so people can access you there as well. But for now, davisbusinesslaw.com. Check it out. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you visit movecrushcount.com. Subscribe to us there. So that way you can catch up on all our past episodes, never miss a future episode. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram, join our Facebook group so you can tune in to our live streams on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. That way you can stay connected with the community. We want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency when it comes to outsmarting your competition so you don't have to outspend them. Visit jnlmarketing.com today so you can see how they can help you move the crowd, crush your competition, and count the money. Lastly, we appreciate your support, your feedback. So please rate us, review us. We grow this show organically. So your ratings help us get us our exposure out there. Share these episodes if you found them helpful, and review us because we take that information you give us seriously, and we try to improve the show from there. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back soon with more valuable insights on Move Crush Count.